In the dusty annals of cinema history, many names have flickered and faded like dying embers in a midnight campfire. But one name stands defiant, not merely as an actor, but as the living, breathing embodiment of a philosophy that defined an era. John Wayne. Today, as we reach this monumental milestone of episode 20, it is time to look far beyond the box office records, the golden trophies, and the Hollywood gossip. It is time to look deep into the soul of the man and the unwritten, ironclad rules he lived by, the Code of the West. This isn't just a biography. It is a masterclass in how a man stands his ground when the world around him begins to crumble, and how a legend is forged not by the words he speaks, but by the weight of the shadow he leaves behind. For John Wayne, the law was never something written in leather-bound books by city lawyers in high-rise offices. His law was forged in the red sands of Monument Valley, under a sun that showed no mercy and a wind that never stopped blowing across the mesas. He believed that a man's word was his only true currency in a world that was becoming increasingly bankrupt of integrity. As the 1950s gave way to a modern era of shifting morals and cynical narratives, the Duke remained a monolith of granite. He lived by a creed that few in the glitz of Los Angeles could truly follow. Never apologize and never explain. It's a sign of weakness. This wasn't just a tough line from a script. It was his internal compass. When a cowboy falls from his horse, he doesn't check his bruises or look for someone to blame. He reaches for the stirrup, pulls himself up, and gets back in the saddle. Wayne fell many times in his 72 years, through the ravages of cancer, through financial ruin brought by those he trusted, and through political betrayals. But every single time, he dusted off his Stetson and walked back into the frame with that iconic, steady gait. Because the code was simple: you may suffer, you may bleed, but you never, ever whine. By the mid-1960s, the world was changing at a terrifying, chaotic pace. Wars were being fought in jungles far away, protests were filling the streets of America, and the rise of the anti-hero in cinema threatened to dismantle everything Wayne had spent decades building. The classic hero was being replaced by the conflicted outlaw, the man without a moral center. Yet, the Duke was not a man to bend with the wind or change his colors for the sake of a trend. He viewed loyalty not as a social option, but as a sacred, unbreakable obligation. When his friends were caught in political firestorms or shunned by the industry during the dark days of the blacklist, Wayne was often the one who stood quietly in the shadows beside them, offering a hand or a job when no one else would. In the Code of the West, leaving a friend in the line of fire was the ultimate, unforgivable dishonor. As Andrew speaks these words, you can hear the echo of a man who was often a lonely warrior, a knight born in the wrong century, trapped in the neon lights of modern Hollywood, but governed by the ancient, dusty rules of chivalry and frontier justice. He once famously said, "Life is hard. It's even harder if you're stupid." It was a blunt, honest summary of a mind that didn't care for complex sociological theories, only for the hard, cold, honest truth that stood right in front of him. To understand the man, you must understand his work ethic. His discipline on a movie set remains the stuff of legend, told and retold by those who were lucky enough to walk the same dirt. To John Wayne, a movie set was not a playground for ego. It was a sanctuary of craftsmanship. He was the first person to arrive at the location, often before the sun had even touched the horizon, and he was the last to leave, long after the generators had been hummed to a halt. He had absolutely no patience for young actors who showed up late, didn't know their lines, or, worst of all, disrespected the hard-working crew behind the cameras. There is a story told of a young, rising star who complained about the heat and not feeling the inner emotion of a particular scene. The Duke, leaning against a rock with the weight of 40 years of cinema on his shoulders, looked at him and simply said, "Don't feel the emotion, kid. Just do your job, be on time, and remember that there are 50 people here waiting for you to get it right so they can go home to their families." To him, sweat, preparation, and punctuality were far more important than any divine inspiration. No success was real unless it was earned through the ache of labor and the grit of perseverance. In Wayne's world, you earned your keep by waking with the sun and staying in the saddle until the work was finished. Furthermore, Wayne's patriotism was not a costume he wore for the cameras. It was an extension of this very same code. He saw America not just as a geographical location on a map, but as a shimmering ideal worth defending with every breath in his lungs. He understood deeply that freedom was not a gift, but a heavy debt called responsibility, a debt that had to be paid every single day. While modern critics and historians often judged him harshly for his unwavering stances, he never wavered from his core rule: do what is right, no matter the cost to your reputation. When asked by a cynical journalist why he insisted on always playing the hero, the man who saves the day, he smiled that slow, knowing smile and replied, "Somebody has to show the kids that the good guys can win too. Somebody has to show them that being a man means standing up when everyone else is sitting down." This was his ultimate mission, to be the unshakable figure who stood against the encroaching darkness of apathy, saying little but doing everything that was required. He saw cinema as more than just flickering lights on a screen. It was a global school where the next generation learned about the fundamental values of courage, honesty, and justice. The Code of the West also dictated how he treated the weakest and the strongest among us. He was a man of immense contradictions, a giant who could be terrifying when angered, yet a man who would stop everything to help a stranger fix a flat tire on a dusty road. His sense of chivalry was old world. He believed in the protection of the innocent and the sanctity of the home. In his private life, these rules were even stricter than those he projected on screen. He was more than a father to his children. He was their moral guide. He didn't want them to inherit a world of luxury and unearned privilege. He wanted them to inherit the value of effort. His own sons, Patrick and Ethan, were not given star treatment. They had to start at the very bottom on his movie sets, sweeping the dusty floors, carrying heavy cables in the blistering heat, and learning the names of every grip and electric. Wayne knew with a deep certainty that unearned status would rot a man's character from the inside out. He never forgot the 3 pieces of advice his own father, a humble pharmacist, gave him when he was just a boy named Marion Morrison. Don't ever lie, don't ever steal, and never lay a hand on a woman in anger. These were the foundation stones of a giant. They were the simple, unbreakable pillars upon which the entire legend of the Duke was built. As we move deeper into this exploration of his final years, we must speak of the legendary Iron Will. Wayne faced the specter of death not once, but twice. When the Big C, cancer, first came for him in the 1960s, Hollywood expected him to retire quietly and fade away. Instead, he held a press conference, looked the world in the eye, and told them he was going to lick it. He didn't want pity, he wanted a fair fight. He continued to work, often breathing through oxygen tanks between takes, hiding his pain so that the audience would only see the strength they expected from him. He understood that he was no longer just a man. He was a symbol of hope for millions of people facing their own private battles. To give up would be to let them down. His final performance in The Shouldest was not just a film. It was a public farewell, a final testament to the code. Every line in that movie reflected his own reality, an old gunfighter facing the end with dignity, refusing to be victimized by time or disease. When he looked into the camera in that final scene, that steady, piercing gaze told us everything we needed to know. He was still there, still the master of his soul, still the captain of his fate. Now, as we approach the final scene of this 20-episode journey, let us reflect on the greatest, most enduring lesson the Duke left for all of us. He taught us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to be scared to death and still saddle up anyway. John Wayne lived that lesson in every single frame of his life, from the low-budget B-westerns of the 1930s to the sunset of his career in the late 70s. He may have physically left this world on a June night in 1979, but the Code of the West did not die with him. It lives on through every frame of film he ever touched, through the resonance of his gravelly voice, and through the deep, abiding respect we hold for a man who knew exactly who he was and never apologized for it. He was the anchor in a storm, the lighthouse on a rocky coast, and the reminder that being a man is about more than just strength, it's about character. Thank you for riding with us through these 20 long chapters of history, cinema, and legend. The trail has been long, the dust has been thick, but the company has been the best a man could ask for. Remember, The horizon never truly ends. It only shifts as we ride toward the next campfire, the next story, the next legend. Andrew leaves the last word to the man himself, the one and only Duke. So long, pilgrims. See you at the next crossing, where the grass is green and the water is clear.